Hello, this is Brenner Adams, and I'd like to share with you a few guidelines and helpful hints on how to both create a presentation for your lesson in Google Slides, which is a simplified version of PowerPoint that is available for free, and secondly, how to display that presentation within Zoom. So first and foremost, as you're preparing a message or a presentation with Google Slides or any format for that matter, I believe it's first important to start with your message. What is the main point you need to make on each slide? Then you work on the method. Is there a better way to display that message, whether with a picture or video? How can you get that point across? And then third, you can really work on the makeup and making it look really good. Many people spend lots of time making things look good and they lose the message. So just quick helpful hint there. The next three come from Guy Kawasaki, famous Apple marketer and investor, and he has a few basic rules. He calls it the 10-20-30 rule. The first one is only 10 slides, only talk for 20 minutes, and never have a smaller than 30-point font. So those are kind of his golden rules. But when we talk about the font specifically, he likes to say that if you take the oldest person in the room, their age, and cut it in half, that should be the smallest font size. So in general, anywhere from 30 to 50-point font makes it so much easier for participants. With Zoom, we can go a little bit smaller because people are looking at it on their screens, but sometimes your participants may be watching your class from their smartphone. So a couple things to keep in mind on the font. Next is when typing out bullets, when providing bullets as I have here, try to make sure that those bullets are only on one line. They fit on one line. You can change the font size as I've shown here. Maybe you can only get 3 to 5 words across, so be very succinct. However, the point is never let your bullets exceed one line. The next helpful hint is to have visual balance as you're laying out your slides. So I've got a few examples here to share with you. We're going to talk about full screen, halves, and thirds. So the first option is to provide images that are full bleed, meaning they cover the entire screen. I've got a little bit of white buffer here, but that's just on the sides of this slide. But when this is in presentation mode, it should fill the entire screen. So that's full screen. If you can put some font over the top of it, great. Try and have high contrast, really dark background or photo with white font, or really light photo with dark font. Either way, make sure that whatever font you're putting on top of the image is legible. The other two formats for presenting or laying out your slide are halves and the rule of thirds. So the first one is a fun way to display a quote with the person who said that quote is to just split it in half. There's a quote on the left and a picture on the right. However, if you're showing larger format images from photography, we borrow the rule of thirds, which means that it's a little more visually stimulating when you break something up into 3 chunks and you use 1/3 for copy or 1/3 for the primary point of the slide and the other 2/3 for imagery or background. So those are just 3 things to keep in mind, either full screen, half screen, or rule of thirds as you divide up imagery and copy on your slides. So the next thing to consider after we've talked about balance of visuals is video. How do you use video to create a compelling experience for your class members? With Google Slides, you can do a few things to optimize the video experience. The first one is to put it in full screen, and second is to manage the duration. So we'll look at those quickly. This is all in a template that I'll share with you in a moment, but basically if you want to insert a video, you simply go to the top, hit insert, then video, then it gives you a YouTube prompt. You can search whatever you want in YouTube. I have a blank slide here. I simply go up to the top. You can see my cursor at the top. I go to insert, then I go to video. It's the same thing if you want to drop in an image, right? So I go to video. I can search YouTube videos, including videos with President Nelson. I select that video. One of the important things to do is to make that video box the entire size of the screen. Now you can do that by stretching it. So here I'm going to stretch it out sideways and it looks really funny initially, but when you do the presentation it will modify all of that to display correctly. Another great thing you can do is determine how much of that video you want to display on this slide. So you could, for example, display from 25 seconds to 1:30. And when you come to this slide, it will only show that section. Go ahead and give yourself a second before and a second after just to be sure. and play it through a couple times to make sure that you've got those durations set correctly. So, next is if you would like to have a interactive question and answer using Google Slides, there's a quick Zoom hack that enables you to do that. The first thing that you need to do is when you're setting up your slide, it will look something like this. You'll have your question on the left. So in a recent class, I was asking participants to discuss ways that they in their lives worship our Savior. What are the things that they do with their family to show that they're worshiping Him? And so in the middle of the Zoom presentation, I was able to quickly add comments, whether they were delivered through the chat or verbally, people piped up and gave their ideas. Now you'll notice there's an orange box here. This orange box is the Zoom window that I'll show you how to set in just a moment. What's important here, if you're using a Google slide and you're hoping to type on that Google slide while presenting, you simply set the Zoom field, this orange box, to be just the slide you're working on. You'll notice outside of the orange box, there's my regular slide presentation with all my different slides, and you can still operate it as if you were in presentation mode. However, if you have your text box, which is this blue box out here, a little wider than the orange, then you can simply tap in between the orange and the blue anywhere here and start typing your answers. That way you can have it a little more interactive rather than have it be just in presentation mode where you can't modify the slides while you present. So I'll show you how to manage the rest of that hack when we get into Zoom here in just a moment. So the last thing I wanted to share down at the bottom here is a template. All of these slides that I've just shown you, as well as a few others, I can show you here a slide template that was created by the bishop, a split screen 50-50 with boxes, or a split screen with question and answer. Some of those things I've already shown you. This template is available for everyone to use. I would just recommend that when you go in to use it, make a copy and modify your version. Don't modify this version so that everyone can play. And if you'll simply point your browser, type this into Google search, bit.ly/Parkway template. That will take you right to this template. Again, make a copy. I'll show you how to do that really quickly. When you land on this URL, you'll simply go into File and then make a copy, make an entire presentation. You'll rename it whatever you want to name it. So this could be Brenner's lesson. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into the Zoom side of things. So I'll jump over to Zoom really quickly. And here I have a Zoom session set up with myself and one member. Now, typically it'll start out here with this gallery screen. And so I'll walk you through a couple of little tricks and tools. But one of the things I like to do as a teacher is I like to have my participants screen brought up to the side so that I can see everyone that's participating, see if they're muted, see if their camera's on or off. When you're there, you can actually go into different people that are attending the meeting, do a couple things. You can chat with them directly. You can actually ask them to start their video. You can make them a host or a co-host. You can rename it if they don't like their name, or push them back into the waiting room if you're not ready to start your class yet. So a couple cool things there to do. This is also where if your member is observing and they have a question, they want to raise their hand, a small blue hand will show up right next to their name, letting you know that they've got their digital hand raised. You can also ask them to just go ahead and raise their hand with the camera. That works too. Another great thing is to actually have the chat window brought up as well to the side. So I'll just open up the chat window. So here I have the chat window off to the left, and I can chat with everyone. Or one quick little tip for those who haven't noticed this yet is you can click on this little blue box and chat with just a specific person. So I can chat with this member and ask them to say the prayer, please. Okay, so you can message people directly, or everyone in the waiting room, everyone already, and then you can see a history of all those chats here. So some other things as far as tools go with Zoom that you may not be aware of. There's some obvious, you can mute yourself, start video, stop video here. But one of the great things, you'll notice my background, that is not my house. That's actually the office of Michael Scott from the TV show The Office. And so if you click on this little arrow down here next to the video button, there is an option to choose virtual backgrounds. Your settings will pop up, and there should be some default images here already. I've added some of my own, including my favorite ski resort there in the background. If you'd like to add some, there's none there, or you don't like the defaults, you can click on this small little plus sign here, and that will allow you to add an image or add a video. And then from the share screen perspective, I talked a little bit about a hack. So I'm going to show you that hack really quickly. So if you'd like to share your screen, go ahead and click share screen, top 1 or desktop 2 if you've got multiple monitors available. In advanced, which was the hack that I mentioned, you can share only a portion of your screen, and you only select the slide itself if you want to type on the slide and add notes while you're going through the presentation. That way the rest of your class doesn't have to see all of your navigational tools while you're presenting, and make sure you select share sound. You can always pause sharing if you would like at any time in your presentation. So that's it. There's a lot more we could go into, but to try and keep it short, that's a quick overview of how to build a Google Slides presentation and then how to display that Google Slides presentation within Zoom and some of the basic functionality of Zoom.